Entertainment, they are extremely influential. And that's in that way, they're some of the most influential punk band of all time.
What do you think the legacy of the Misfits is?
Well, it's a few things. I would say I don't know whether it's big or little, but I don't have a good sense of their actual legacy within punk, like their influence within punk itself.
Okay.
And because I think I think they were influential on a certain number of bands. But I think a lot of they were kind of in the sauce when they came out. And I think like the Ramones were just as influential, if not more influential. A lot of other bands around them in punk were so influential. They're extremely influential though in other genres of music and other forms of entertainment. They are extremely influential. And in that way, they're some of the most influential punk band of all time on that list. Like I said, not just the Metallica covers, but like Cliff Burton's whole identity was a Misfits fan. That was like his persona within Metallica, as the guy who wore the Misfits shirt and had the Misfits tattoo. They're big into thrash metal, the imagery, the horror movie stuff, all that. And they are the reason why we say, oh, do you like the shirt or do you actually know the lyrics? Like they're the band of why we say that so much. And I actually kind of hate that because some people will say like it just speaks to they didn't have good songs. People only like the Misfits because they're iconography. No, they have both. I have Misfits vinyl and I got a Misfits tattoo, and because it looks cool, because I like the way they do that stuff. They are good at both. I just don't know how influential they necessarily were musically within punk. That's the one thing I do kind of question a little bit.
It's interesting because we don't usually 100% agree. I think we're pretty close to 100% agreement on this. I think that their legacy is so big and it reaches so far outside of punk rock that while I know them as a punk band, dude, you see 46-year-old blonde, sharp haircutted minivan driving moms wearing Misfits shirts, and they know some of the songs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's crazy to me. And I think the fact that they're associated with something like Halloween as like the holiday, I think that gives them another push. Then they were covered by metal bands. Boom, another push. Then they had this huge blow up within the band, and then they came back with Glenn. They're touring now. Huge push. They got one of the most iconic logos of all time, which I feel is kind of crazy since they stole it. Like, I mean, it's bananas that they're able to do that. But whatever, man. But they still have it. And I'm not talking crap. I love the Misfits. I love their logo. I've got some of their vinyl as well. I don't have a tattoo. I probably should get one. Why not? I don't care. I love the Misfits. But like, yeah, I think that they affect so much. I do agree with the Ramones thing. I think the Ramones would be the more influential punk rock band, but the more influential group of people would have to be the Misfits.
I think
they've affected movies, music. I mean, dude, I literally don't think that we would have and as much as I don't care for this dude's stuff that much, the guy himself is cool. I don't think we'd have Rob Zombie like we do if it wasn't for the Misfits. And I don't like his movies a lot. There's a couple that I do like, but as a person, that guy's awesome, man. And he makes, interesting enough music. He's got some songs that I like. Dude, if you listen to some of his Rob Zombie solo material, you hear a whole lot of Michael Graves' Misfits in that stuff. Even down to the guitar tone, dude, like a lot. So, I think that even stuff like Art the Clown, I'm looking at my wall and thinking like, doggone, man, I don't know if we'd have that without the Misfits. I mean, they're on a different level, man. I think that they're basically they're like the dirty, rotten punk rock version of Kiss, man.
They really are. I've gone down so many Reddit rabbit holes of comparing that the Misfits are the Kiss of punk, and like literally when I was a little kid, I get them confused because they had a similar thing.
Black and white, yeah.
Yeah, and again, thinking of that Graves era Misfits specifically, that's also the era where Kiss had their little comeback too with Psycho Circus in 1999. So
it is, isn't it?
It's kind of similar. The other one though, as you were talking about, is like they're a little bit Kiss. They're also kind of the Van Halen of punk rock in that they're the two singers. They're the multiple eras like that. They have a lot of commonality, I think, with Van Halen. They also are, I said they're not influential musically, but they also are very unique musically. Part of it's because they build their own instruments and stuff. Like Jerry's bass is built by Jerry. what's his name? Wolfgang's guitar was built by Wolfgang, just through that classic sort of punk rock necessity that we always talk about. And so they have that uniqueness to them. They also, what they don't get credit for is they eventually learned how to play their instruments as time went on and stuff. And they got really, really sharp at doing what they did.
Way better now than they were in the 80s and even, I guess early 80s, late 70s. They're way better now, man. And I think that they even spawned, I mean, you have like full-on metal bands that cite them as their main influence. Like you have stuff like the Murder Dolls and Wednesday 13. That's not punk, dude. Like
we share. It's like I think they're the most. They're gonna be the most shared band too between. Punk
yeah,
and
they're like
them and Motorhead are like the ones that like.
Dude, yes. Like, them and Motorhead are the two bands that bring metal and punk rockers together the most.
A big summit that happens. Like, and honestly, like remember the original Misfits played last year, and I think like one show was the opening band was Megadeth, and the other one was AFI. I mean,
that's
not
so
exactly
awesome.
Similar, but they both fit with a Misfits build perfect.
That's yeah. I love Megadeth though. I'm a big Megadeth fan. I think it's cool because the Misfits gave you an iconic logo, basically an entire genre of music. They birthed the hairstyle with the devil lock. That was never going to be cool until they did it. Yeah, man. I think Psychobilly wouldn't be around like it is. Like, that's interesting, man. Misfits have a very, very storied and important legacy, in my opinion.
They just weren't very loved, I think, in the time period that we talk about a lot, and so that's where, like, their renaissance happened almost after. Like, you think about like the early 2000s, everyone's like re into the Ramones and stuff, and like the Misfits. I feel like there was the Metallica stuff and all that happened in the late 90s, early 2000s, like post Graves, the Misfits were such a dead brand, and it didn't feel like till years later that they kind of just they kept the momentum going and people got the thirst for these reunions and that kind of stuff.
Man, I guess we just grew up in completely different, like, because you often say things like that, and I just don't have the same experience. Like, there's never been a time in Houston, Texas, where the Misfits weren't the Misfits. Like, that never. I can't recall ever being around a group of punks or metalheads or just rock and rollers in general that the Misfits weren't the shit. Like, they've always been that band down here. But I mean, dude, we have a weird, we as in like Houstonians have like or Texans, South US people, you know what I'm saying? Like Southern United States folks, like down here in Texas and Louisiana and Florida, we have a little different thing going on, man. Like, I do notice that a lot. Like, I'll hear other people talk, not just you, just in general. And it's interesting the stuff that people will say, oh, I remember when this was popular. And I'm like, that never really wasn't popular down here. Or when they say, I remember when this was popular. And I also can go, oh, that was never popular down here. Like, and we have like, even down to like our cars down here. We have something in Houston that nobody else in the entire
culture,
so I think we're just kind of stuck in our own little bubble, maybe, but because we're so far away from everything, it's kind of hard to transport that stuff. But
you know what band we wouldn't have? We would not have NoFX. Fat Mike's, like, his band is the Misfits. That was Fat Mike's band. That is.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He refined this. They refined the sound of NoFX after Bad Religion and Suffer came around. But like his kind of original, like early Misfits shows our early NoFX shows are just tons of Misfits covers that they're playing and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's Mike. Cool. That's part of Mike. Like Mike, one of Mike's bass has the little Misfits inset there on the head.
I've probably heard that a bunch. And
that was
didn't
his
retain
thing.
The information.
I think when he got the name Fat Mike, he would wear the devil lock like in college and stuff, and that was just sort of.
Oh, I've never seen his thing with the devil lock, but that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's funny. You don't necessarily associate the Misfits and NoFX, but actually like. Fat Mike's whole like punk rock, really awakening. The Misfits were his band very much.
Dude, that is crazy because I don't associate those two bands. Man, that was a fun conversation.